All right, we are live now for our February 2025 General Members Meeting. I am your president, Edward Paul of the NAACP Gwinnett County Branch. So thank you all for coming out. Before we get started, like we typically always do, anytime we start our meetings, we always start with a moment of silence. That just so if anybody want to pray and respect for everybody's different religions and things of that nature, spiritual backgrounds, we have a moment of silence. If you want to use this next 60 to 90 seconds to pray, you can do so. Just have that quick moment of silence, and then we'll get started with our agenda and get started with our meeting. All right. All right, so thank you all for coming to tonight's general meeting. The first thing we typically like to do before we get started with the agenda is accept the minutes from the January meeting. So can I get a motion from one of the members on the floor to accept the minutes from our January 2025 general meeting?
I make a motion to accept the minutes from the January meeting.
And motion given by Assistant Secretary Shanika Walker. Can I get a second? Second. Seconded by Youth Advisor Keely Atkins. Any additional questions? All right, all those in favor of accepting the minutes from my January 2025 meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it, so the minutes have been accepted. So we'll start off by going over a few of our committee reports, and I'm gonna go a little bit out of order just because we do got some people that's out sick today. So I'm going to jump down to the Political Action Committee first and have Mrs. Ellie Walker come up and give the report for the PAC for this month's from January's meeting. Our Political Action Committee. Yeah. Like we typically do it, we acknowledge, while she's getting that pulled up, we do acknowledge all the officers at our meetings. So I do like to acknowledge the officers that are currently present. So we do have our Assistant Secretary, Shanika Walker, Political Action Committee Chair, Ellie Walker. These Walker's messing me up. Our Youth President, Alana Atkins. You can just wave your hand. Youth Advisor, Keely Atkins, Co-Youth Advisor, Bruce. I think I covered all the officers here.
Yeah.
Who I meant to say? Oh, Assistant Secretary of our Youth Council, Malia Walker. I know that. Right. All right. Sorry.
Okay. Sorry, y'all can't see right. Okay. Hey everybody. So our last meeting took place on Monday, January 13th at 7:30 p.m. because we moved it to the Martin Luther King holiday. Members present were myself, Ellie Walker, President Edward Paul, Dominic McCormick, Shante Stroud, and Stephanie Williams. We opened the meeting with, or the agenda items we at 7 p.m. And then the county commissioners also meet every first and third Tuesday at 10 and 2 for their work and business sessions. So they got a lot going on, but we need to make sure that we're there for that. We also encourage that anyone who's not able to attend the meetings in person, they do have them available online to watch them again, they record them, and then bring any feedback that they gather from these meetings back to our committee meeting. We also discussed if people have capacity to attend local city council meetings and in their each members' respective cities, if possible. And then also be able to watch those recordings if you can't attend in person as well. So the main point is to attend whatever committee meetings of these that you can, get feedback, so then we can all come back together and discuss what's happening at each of these places. And as a branch, that way we know what's happening all around. We also discussed at the end the appointment of the Democratic Party, the incoming vote for the new board registration and elections member, which was from the Democratic Party. They had another member to add because Dr. Wendy Taylor resigned from her position, and now it's David Porter. David is first name.
I don't know I can't think of who took Dr. Taylor's place, but it is a African American male.
Yes, he regularly attends.
Yeah, he's typically there all the time. My first name is David. Forgive me for not knowing the last name.
It is Port. I can remember if it's David, so that might be it. So okay. Yeah. But I will say, because I go to these meetings a good bit, he's there all the time. He makes public comment almost every time. So I think he's going to be a good addition to the board that way. And that pretty much sums up our meeting. Our next meeting will be this coming Monday, the 17th, again at 8 p.m.
Questions?
Any questions? Yes, sorry.
Right. Right, so go out of order based on who I see here. So that's how I'm gonna do this. So since I see the youth council, and at least half of their EC, about a third of their executive committee are here, I'll let new president Alana Atkins come up and give a report from our Gwinnett NAACP Youth Council.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
So our last meeting was on January 24th at 6 p.m. President was me, Alana Atkins, Youth President, Keoti D. Atkins, Youth Advisor, Malia Walker, Second Secretary, and Reese Walker, Second Youth Advisor. We opened the meeting with a prayer to bless the new year and the initiatives of the Youth Council. Then Keoti Atkins welcomed all of the attendees to the first 2025 meeting of the NAACP Gwinnett County Youth Council and provided an outline of the agenda. This also focused on our AXO meeting, which we had after this call. And we focused on the visions of objectives of the Youth Council, an overview of AXO, and plans for the February 14th kickoff event at main event. And then we had a Q&A session for if anyone had any questions. So I presented the Youth Council's mission and vision, which focuses on race to greatness. So race, relationship, reach, recruiting. A for AXO, Afro-Academic, Cultural, Technological, and Scientific Olympics. C for courage, community, and change. And E for education, employment, and entrepreneurship. Then Keoti Atkins provided a detailed overview of AXO and explaining its mission to showcase youth talents and provide scholarship opportunities. Key points included who can participate, which is high school students, 9th to 12th grade, and the categories of competition: STEM, humanities, business, performing arts, visual, and culinary arts. And the competition structure, which is one max local winner per category and bronze, silver, and gold winners in each category at nationals. And then he shared his personal experience as a former AXO participant emphasizing the life-changing opportunities and networking potentials. And so we're creating a list to reach out to local organizations and schools and submitting the draft letter late February. Then we went over our event tomorrow, main event in Swanee. So the event will include bowling, laser tag, arcade games, and team building exercises. There's 2 hours of gameplay, a 1 hour game card, and dinner and refreshments. And this is also an opportunity to gain more members and spread the word about AXO. And that was our latest meeting. Any questions? Questions?
All right. Come on. Try to bring it up. I guess I ain't trying to get too close, but I'm gonna block it. I guess it's fine. So I'm gonna move the podium up because it wasn't catching who was speaking. So let's see. So I think this all my officers that are at least present. So I'll cover a few of the committee meetings that we've had that hasn't been covered. So the membership committee, since our membership chair Tiger Harris, fortunately due to family commitment, he wasn't able to attend, but I will go over the meeting. So the membership committee met on February the 6th at 7:30 p.m. Those who attended the meeting were membership chair Tiger Harris, first vice president Jacqueline Rupp, committee member Dominique and Shantae and Nicola. Agenda items that was discussed. They discussed doing a raffle for anybody that signs up for a lifetime membership, along with strategies on how to promote the raffle. This is in the effort to recruit new life members. And what was concluded were the different prizes that will be given out for the raffle for anybody that takes on a life membership. They decided on the first place prize, which would be a laptop, and they're still currently deliberating on what the second, third place prize would be. Some of the things that were suggested were 2 tickets to the movies, a dinner for 2. So like maybe a gift card at, I guess a nice restaurant. So they're still discussing and trying to flesh out what the prizes would be. And so that was, and then they're looking also for potential locations to conduct some different membership drives, churches, local parks, sporting events, and then utilizing certain social media platforms. And that's pretty much it from their meeting. One thing I will speak on that I know that I didn't get a chance to discuss because of some family issues with my son, I wasn't able to be at the meeting, so I asked Tiger to postpone going over our upcoming membership orientation. So that committee is working on a membership orientation. This will be an orientation just to introduce to the members where the NAACP, go over all the different committees we have, talk about how to conduct yourself when you come into the meeting, or utilizing some of our different tools like group meeting. And then the committee is also working on a code of conduct. Once it's finalized, then we'll send it off to our national office to get it approved, make it part of our local bylaws. Code of conduct, but just again a way for how people should interact with each other in NAACP spaces. Or if you're out wearing, NAACP paraphernalia, making sure that you represent our organization well. So they're working on finalizing that. That wasn't those who they discussed at the meeting, but I'm just bringing it up since that ties into previous meetings and things of that nature. I do know the orientation right now is set for March 15th. I'm not sure yet if it's going to be a combination of just virtual or both in person and virtual. No members in the committee wanted to do some form of in person with that. So we'll have more discussion about whether that's going to be something that we do a combination of both. I want to definitely have a virtual option. So for those who can't attend in person, can definitely be there online, and even some of the officers that can't be there in person can watch it online. So that way, can speak on it. But that way, everybody in the organization can get to know myself, who the secretary is, who the treasurer is, what's their role, what's the assistant treasurer role, the different committee chairs that we have present within our branch. So we're still trying to work all those things out, and once we get it sort of finalized, then we'll proceed from there. So that is all from the membership committee. Was there any questions around that before I move on to the health committee?
What's the cost of a lifetime membership?
So lifetime membership is broken down for the adults into 3 tiers. There is Silver Life. The total amount is $750, or you can pay an annual payment of $75. So I know the way the raffle is going to work, you're not required to pay the entire $750, as long as you at least pay your one-time $75 to get it started to pay it off. That would automatically get you a raffle. So with lifetime membership, that can be paid annually, or you can pay it monthly or every couple of months. There's really no right way or wrong way to pay off the $750 life membership. It can be done every month if you're trying to knock it out in the first 12 months, or you can do it over the course of a couple of months. Thank y'all for coming in. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Make sure you sign in, please. So it's just up to you how you pay it off, but that's the Silver Life membership. Gold Life membership is $1,500. It's $150 over 10 payments, whether it's annual, monthly, or 5 month, semi-annually, however you want to do it. And then the highest is the Diamond Life membership, which is $2,500, and that's 10 payments of $250. So those are the 3 life membership tiers for the adults. For the youth life membership is $100, and the bronze is $500, if I'm not mistaken. And the same as the others that can be paid, annually, semi-annually, however you want to pay it off. Youth life, junior youth life, which is the $100 one, that's from baby to 13, and then from 13 to 17, well, really from 13 to about 24, if you choose to stay on that, is $500. But at any point in time, once the child turns 18, if a young adult turns 18 and they want to upgrade from, they want to, okay, I want to, be an adult member and vote in for the adult stuff and be on the adult committees and things of that nature. If they want to upgrade out of the bronze life into an adult membership, they can either by doing a regular adult membership or paying off, or starting payments on Silver Life adult membership, which is the lowest one. Also with the life memberships, I do know, for instance, if you have, let's say, a 5-year-old and you pay $100, and now they don't have to pay it until they get 14. They do take the $100 you paid on your junior life and apply that to the next tier, which would be the bronze life. And then they'll take whatever you paid on the bronze life and the junior life and apply that towards your adult membership. So I do know your as you pay for different life memberships, as you get up in age, those credits are applied toward your adult life membership if you're a child. So something else to keep it. Any other questions? Yep.
What's the difference in the tiers from tier 1 to
So National really doesn't have a big difference in the tiers. I think if you get a Silver Life membership, you get a plaque. I want to say if you get a Gold or Diamond Life membership, they give you a plaque. You also get like a lapel pin. And then one more thing I cannot remember off the top of my head. I got to call them. I called them and asked them what I to get. But so what we're working on local level is trying to set up partnerships with different restaurants to say, hey, if this person's a Silver Life member or Gold Life or Diamond Life, they get certain discounts at select restaurants and business locations. So the membership committee is probably going to take them some time to really flesh that out because they got to make those connections and get all that set up. But hopefully by at least end of this year or going into 2026, we'll have something worked out with anybody that's a life member, any of our partners or sponsors, people that support us in Gwinnett County that have different discounts that they'll offer if you show them your life. Because you'll get a card that says that you're a Silver Life member. But the way that will work, I
we'll say that we're gonna say that for people that's got that the membership is paid and they actually silver life now. Now the raffle, that's different. Once you start making payments toward the life membership, you'll get the raffle. But I do know we want to say that for people that has paid off their life membership. I will say a good benefit is, and Assistant Secretary is here. Unfortunately, Secretary couldn't make it tonight. She's out of town. But then what they will do is, if you are a life member, typically membership expires once a year. If you are a life member, I've already instructed the Secretary and Assistant Secretary to, if somebody makes, let's say, 2 payments on their life membership in 1 year, to give you that extra, add that extra year to your membership. You can't do that with a regular membership. Once you pay the one-time payment, we only put it in there one time. But with life memberships, we can extend out your expiration date on your life, and which will buy you more time. You have to get it back out. I will say that. Any other questions? Okay. All right, so I'm gonna take a break real quick from the health and get it pulled up on my phone. And while I do that, I'm going to ask our first Vice President, Jay Walker-in, and our Freedom Fund Committee Chair to come up and just give a report on the Freedom Fund Committee. While he's working on that, I will cover one other thing. So our Education Committee Chair, John Cox, second Vice President, he's not here tonight. So I didn't get a report from him, but I will just walk through some things that was working on. Prior to, I know a lot of you probably are aware, the superintendent in Gwinnett County was removed by the previous school board. We were working on a pilot program with Gwinnett County schools to kind of help them with the discipline program. That's what the Education Committee was working on. Part of that program was to have a late bus so that any children who may have in-school suspension, they could serve that suspension after school, so that way they can stay in classrooms, still get their work done, and then whatever out-of-school suspension, it could be served during that time for the late bus. Not sure where that program is going to go now that we got an interim superintendent, but we will communicate with the school system to see where it's at. I think Dr. Watts is still scheduled to be superintendent all the way up until I think April the 2nd or April 5th, somewhere in there.
April 1st.
April 1st?
Yeah, and the 2nd,
April 1st.
the interim takes over.
Yep, so we'll see where it goes. So just stay tuned on that. I know that was one of the big things we was kind of working on. Hopefully it will still be something we can work with the new superintendent. So you ready? Yeah. Okay. So I will let our first Vice President and Freedom Fund Committee Chair come up and give a report on the Freedom Fund banquet. And I say, tell us what the Freedom Fund Committee banquet is about, because maybe you got some new faces, so they may not know.
Not a problem. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Okay. Wow, everybody's paying attention. That's nice. So the Freedom Fund Banquet is an event where we all, after all the work we do throughout the year with protection, dealing with different issues in the community, whether we're talking on education level, we're talking on legal redress level and political action and so forth, that it's an opportunity for us to sit back, relax, let our head down, and kind of reflect, have a little time to recognize those that worked by giving awards, members of the community, members of the NAACP that put in a lot of work. And it's also a great opportunity, as we showcase that, to invite the broader community, whether it's the businesses or different individuals or organizations, to support us to fundraise. Okay. So with that said, we've been working quite a bit. It's been a while because since we transitioned back, we're so busy, we kept changing the dates, but finally we have a definitive final date. It is set for September 20th. So this is a report of the meeting we had this Monday, Monday the 10th. We typically meet every second Mondays of the month. So if you are interested in taking part, just let me know or let the president know, and we could give you an opportunity to join in and work with us. But what we discussed Monday was the logistics and planning for the Freedom Fund banquet. The venue, which is Beaufort Community Center, has been confirmed. It's paid in full and ready to go. So they're just waiting for us to do what we need to do and show up and have a great event. We have a honorary chairperson that's been designated and has given a verbal approval. So we'll wait to get the final written approval. There's some documents we have to share and get signed off on, and then at that point we can start talking about it. But we're pretty excited about that. So that will become public once everything is confirmed in writing. The committee. One of the things that we discussed is who to name the banquet after. Okay. Typically in honor of someone who has done something for the NAACP or through the NAACP. There's often someone that that is designated by the unit. It's not a requirement, but it's a gesture of honoring that person for their work. So we were discussing that, and we tabled that for further discussions because one of the names came up, and we wanted the committee to have time to discuss it, vet it, and come back with a decision. So with that said, again, there's no requirement to have a name, but it just irks us back to some of the work done before us within the unit. And if you're not aware, the unit we got our charter in April 10th, 1972. So we got our charter in April 10, 1972. So this April will be our 53rd anniversary as a unit in existence. So with that said, there's been quite a few that have come before us and left their mark. So it's only fair that we honor them for the work they've done in the past. In addition, we discussed caterers. So the location had 6 approved caterers. We now did down to 3. We're really have our mind more or less targeted on one of them, pending all the verification and confirming everything that we've discussed with them so far. So our next step will be going forward for the next couple of months is to set up listing with the caterer, with the different caterers that we're talking to, finalizing decision on the caterer after receiving their proposals, forming subcommittees for various logistics. So we're going to need people to really make sure everything is working like clockwork. As I mentioned earlier, naming the banquet, selecting a keynote speaker and marketing strategies. So that's what we're looking at, and that is my report for the Freedom Fund banquet. Any questions? There's no questions. Thank you very much for your time. I really like the applauses.
Thank you to our first vice president, committee chair, Jaco Hunt. Let me report for the health committee. All right, so the health committee met on January 23rd, which was Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Those who attended that meeting were myself, health committee chair, new health committee chair, Demel Luis, Shamil Way, member at large, Markeisha Wilson, Ms. Ernestine Brown, Teresa Drayton, Otis Jennifer, and Jacob One, and Ms. Elizabeth. What we discussed was the upcoming health resource fair, which will be taking place on this Saturday, February the 15th. We went over additional disparities seen in the health field, health in the Black community here in Gwinnett County. Talked about my and Brother DeWeese, the health committee chair, upcoming meeting with GNR. So we are meeting with the health department. For those who may not be familiar, how Gwinnett Health Department of Structure is combined with Rockdale and also Newton County. So we meeting with their team next week actually to discuss some of those disparities, to get more data on what some of those disparities look like in the Black community in terms of health disparities, so that we can, as a committee, move in a direction towards advocacy towards those issues. We also discussed some of the 2024 resolutions that were adopted by the national office. And we discussed different members of that committee that will be volunteering to be at our health and resource fair on that week, on this coming weekend, Saturday, at 11 a.m. I'll dive more into that a little bit later in the agenda, but is there any other questions from this committee? So that being said, that ends the report. Let me the agenda here. And I was trying to buy a little time for our health chair to be here. He's had a late meeting. He's a mental health. He's in the mental health field, so he had a client he was working with. So running a little bit behind getting here. So I was gonna let him do the announcement, but I'll go ahead and talk about it. So under old business, we have our upcoming health resource fair. Like I said, it'll be on this Saturday the 15th, and I'm pulling up that location. Going off of memory, but it's okay. Here we go. It's going to be at 686 Peachtree Industrial Boulevard in Swanee, Suite 100. So if you pull into GPS, take you to 686 Peachtree Industrial Boulevard in Swanee. When you first come in, you'll see some different buildings. Just come around the back side. Around that back side at the very end, that very last building, it'll be coming in to be, I guess, on your left. That'll be where we'll have the event. So we'll try to have some signs and everything on the outside so people can notice we're on the inside. And I'll try to make sure one of the volunteers is on the outside, kind of directing traffic to around the back side. But the health resource fair will be in the back. We'll have people there checking for blood pressure, glucose, a bunch of different mental health resources. Probably a lot of things y'all may not know, a lot of organizations y'all may not know that existed in Gwinnett County. I know one of the things, talking to different health committee members that serve on the committee, that work in different places that, and even in our education committee too, because it kind of came up there. A lot of people don't know about the different mental health resources that people have, especially when it comes to kids that's, going through a lot of traumatic background and things of that nature. So it is a great event. So definitely tell your friends. It's already posted on our NAACP Facebook page, our Instagram page, our Twitter page. So if you follow us, if you don't follow us, please follow us. Gwinnett_NAACP on Instagram and Twitter, and then at Gwinnett County NAACP on Facebook. Go ahead and follow us on social media, so that way you can you'll see the different upcoming event, and as well as the location that we posted. The flyers already out there for the event. So definitely tell your friends, family, like I said, especially those that you may be concerned about their health. If they haven't been able to get to the doctor to get a blood pressure check or get a glucose check on them, their blood glucose, this is a good time to have them come out and get those checks. As well as we have different other vendors that, like I said, that's for mental health. That'll be there to give them some resources about mental health, especially if they're dealing with, a troubled spouse, a troubled teen that they're concerned about. They can get some, resources, because biggest thing I know when it comes to issues, especially with mental health and physical health too, is resources. Understanding, being able to diagnose and catch things early on, so that it won't cause problems down the road. So definitely it's a great event. Definitely come out. The event is free. You ain't got to pay nothing to get in. Just show up, and we'll have different, like I said, organization. I think we got, if I'm not mistaken, it's slightly over, somewhere between, I want to say it's more than 20, but I know it's somewhere between 15 and 20 vendors that'll be there. With different resources for both physical and mental health. So that's, like I said, scheduled this Saturday at 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. So once again, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Saturday the 15th, 686 Peachtree Industrial Boulevard, Suite 100 in Swanee. Like I said, when you first come into the parking lot, just come around the back side of the building, and it'll be the very last entrance on that back side. So that is that. Any other additional questions about the upcoming event? All right. So I'm going, well, yeah, I know Alana brought it up, our youth president brought it up earlier about the upcoming youth event, but I'll let her come back and give some more details, time, location. I think it's too late to get the tickets, but I think in y'all pass, it's too late. But y'all can still donate to the youth council by going to NAACP.com and at least show your support for our youth. And there's I help committee chair there right now. So
sorry for the fighting.
that's okay. You might well not go to the back. Just come on up front. Before I transition to Alana, I'll let you come up. We discussing the health resource fair. I've already told you the location and time, but if you got anything else you want to add about any other vendors that's going to be there, you know, this is our new health committee chair.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
Therapy was rough, so. So we're going to have, what I see is, we're going to have hopefully 4 vendors that have trucks for blood pressure screening, I think optical eye care, diabetes testing, and HIV testing. Hopefully they show up. Everybody that I've been connected with said they were going to come, but because of the rain supposed to be Saturday, they might not show up. Also, what I'm told in the neighborhood is because of the ice raids, a lot of people that's Hispanic might not come out. I was at an event with Gwinnett Initiatives 2 weeks ago, and we was in a heavily populated area that were Hispanic people, and they would not come out because of the raids. So we'll see what's going to happen this Saturday. And if not, we'll do something better to accommodate them so they can feel more comfortable about coming out and getting service that's needed. Also, I think it is Gwinnett Initiative. They want to work with us some more throughout the year. And also, because I do CPR and BLS, American Heart Association, the director for I think it's director for engagement in the communities. We're talking about getting together and doing more things at the unit with the American Heart Association and Gwinnett Initiatives. So that's going to be really exciting to see what's coming up and how we can support each other throughout the year of doing what we're doing. And that's basically what I have for you guys for the Health and Wellness Committee. Any questions? Any concerns? Any inputs? All right. Well, thank you, guys.
Good. All right. All right. So at this time, I'll turn it over to our youth president, our mighty leader on our youth, to talk about their upcoming event. I know she touched on it a little bit in her report, but I'm just going to allow her to give a few more details. In case you still want to come by and be part of the youth committee. Again, as I stated earlier, their membership is only, the regular membership is only $10, and that's from, come on, but it's from, baby to 24, I think, before you age out of the youth council, you age out at 25. So it's from 0 to 24 for youth membership. Their junior life membership, which is 13 and to baby, is $100, and you got to pay it again. And their bronze life is $500, if I'm not mistaken. So I'll go ahead. A lot of.
So our Valentine's Day kickoff event is at Main Event in Swanee, which is 471 North Holt Parkway in Swanee, Georgia. And if you do still want to come to the event, just see me and the youth advisor after this meeting. and y'all can probably come. It's a kickoff event to promote AXO as well as to gain membership for the youth branch of the NAACP. That's pretty much the information on main event. There will be food and a game card and bowling and the laser tag and the gravity rope. So feel free to come and happy Valentine's Day.
I did kind of jump the gun on the report, so what I'm gonna do now is go back to the report. So because our education chair was out sick, our legal redress chair had issues, so they neither one could give their reports. I want to make a motion now to accept, and then the treasurer is not here, and because we are streaming live, we typically only give a financial report to members only, but since this is a public forum, if you are a member of the branch and you want a copy of January's finance report, then email the secretary@NAACP.com, and she will verify your membership and forward your email to the treasurer. The treasurer will send you a copy of the finance report for the month of January. That being said, I want to accept all reports read tonight except for education, and that's just because wasn't available, legal redress, and finance. Can I get a motion to accept all reports except for those three, since they wasn't able to be read?
A motion to accept the reports that were read.
Second.
Okay, motion seconded by Ms. Valley, second by Mr. Tyler. Any additional questions? All those in favor of accepting the reports that was read tonight, except for those three that I mentioned, legal redress, education, finance, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. So reports will be accepted in our records. And again, we will give an update on those reports at our next meeting. If you want a copy of the January report, just contact the chairs of those particular committees or email the secretary. She'll get it to you. So moving on to our next agenda item under old business membership. So we need members to join our communications and AXO committee. I'll go over those. Well, tell you what, we got our AXO chair here. I'll let him talk about that. So I'm gonna go over communications. Communications committee are the people that run our live stream, that they handle typing up media advisories and press releases and all that. So we do need members that participate in the communications committee. So if you're interested in joining the committee, email the secretary or myself, president@NAACP.com. You can email secretary@NAACP.com. The secretary or assistant secretary will respond and get that information over to us to get you plugged into that particular committee. And as far as AXO, I'll let our AXO chair, Keely Atkins, come up and talk about AXO a little bit. We are scheduled to have our first AXO meeting, but I'll let him follow the detail. Come on. So I don't want to steal his thunder. So.
Thank you very much, President Paul. How's everybody doing tonight?
Good.
Y'all can do a little bit better than that. How's everybody doing tonight?
Good, man.
That's what I'm talking about. I want to know from everyone in here, when they were in high school, how many went on a trip without their parent? How many went on a trip without their parent? Okay, I see 3, 4, 5. I want you all to tell me, how much fun did you have on that trip without your parents? I'm glad the children can't see your faces because they'll wonder what happened on the trip. Well, that's the experience of paid trip that individuals who participate in AXO have the opportunity to do. So just give you a little bit about my background. Originally from Oakland, California, where I was born and raised. And I had the opportunity to participate in AXO. And I was in 10th grade, and a project I had in school was to write on America's nursing home. So that's what I submitted for that competition. So you have the opportunity to participate in multiple categories. And so I participated playing the piano. I did not win in that category, but a friend of mine, he did. And I won in the area of locally, because only one person can go in each category, which is 33. It's not just that you win locally, you have to compete and perform at a level of excellence where they were willing to put the money behind sending you to the nationals. So I went to Los Angeles that year. It was at the Marriott Bonaventure. And so it starts off the national conference. So the front end of it is the AXO competition. So individuals compete against other individuals from around the country. So I had the opportunity to meet some great people and build some awesome relationships from that point. And the children don't know about this. I actually had a couple pen pals that I started from that experience. But the leadership, the opportunity to compete at a high level, to recognize areas in the arts, recognize areas in the area of education, whether it's computer programming, math, the areas of writing, performing arts. You can go to the NAACP website and then you'll see a tab on there about the different areas. And so what we're doing is we're reaching out to the different organizations here in Gwinnett County, as well as the schools, so that students who want to show off what oftentimes they're not recognized for their gifts, talents, abilities, as well as the sacrifices that they've made to excel in different areas. AXO gives the opportunity for them to do that, get recognized locally, get the opportunity to go to nationals, and they get paid money. They get a scholarship in the top 3 categories. When I went to the national, I won 3rd place. I got bronze, and at that time it was $500, $750, and $1,000. Now the numbers have doubled. And so in each of those categories, the top 3 get between $1,000, $1,500, and $2,000, and they leave with a medal and a check, which is a great thing that they can apply to their academic pursuits as they graduate from high school and go on to higher level of education. So I definitely had a great experience, and I'm excited about giving opportunity to the youth here in Gwinnett County. And Mr. Paul, he'll be leading our first initial meeting. So we're looking forward to as many of you as possible joining us this Sunday, and any youth that you know of who, again, there's various areas of participation, 9th grade up to 12, who may be interested in participation. Please share it with their parents, let them get on so they can hear more about it and see the next steps so they can participate and get a trip to Charlotte, North Carolina, where our next event's going to be in this July. So thank you all much, and I'll hand it back over to you, sir.
Any questions for our AXO chair and youth advisor, Yoda Yankers, about AXO?
Just got released this week.
What?
No, I was asking if you mentioned the date because they just released it this week.
I did not say specific. I just know it's in July, the 2nd week.
Are you talking about the date for the convention?
Yeah.
Convention date, July 12th through the 16th.
Mhm.
So for anybody participating in AXO, it'll be Saturday, July 12th to Wednesday, July 16th. That'll be the days that we will be at our national convention. It will be in Charlotte. And again, I'm encouraging all members. You're a member of our branch. We want you to go if you can. Certainly, we want to take a big contingency down there. Like I said, our organization just got reactivated back June 2024. We've done a lot in a short period of time. You know, like I said, we had the largest gap of vote campaign in our branch's history in 6 different counties. We, like I said, got a pilot program, education. We started a health committee after it's been dormant for a few years. AXO, something we hadn't done in, I think Jock said maybe about 10 years. I think the last time we had AXO, I think Jawan maybe was the one in charge of that. Like in the early 2000s, mid 2000s. So again, we're moving at light speed, even though we've been back active for a short period of time. So definitely want as many people to participate and go with us to the national convention. If you can't make it to the national, definitely try to go to the state convention. As far as I know, that's still going to be in October. I think it's the second weekend in October, Thursday through Saturday.
9th to 11th.
9th to 11th. It's still going to be in Augusta.
Yes.
Augusta, Georgia. Yep. So let me back to it. Agenda here. Okay, so we on the new business now, and we got a short bullet point. I know that last one will probably take up some time. So, at this time, I'll turn it over to First Vice President Jack LaRunt to talk about our advocacy day at the Capitol yesterday, just to give some highlights and some things that came out of that. At the Capitol, that we had all the different branches went to the Capitol yesterday, and we had an advocacy day. What they talking about? All right.
So, for those who may not be aware, I'm also the state treasurer, so we got the plan to go up there, it's called Founder's Day. And so every year we go, there's a day that's reserved for us to be active and be at the state capitol. So we encourage all our members. I know this year we try to get people there. We had 3 people with Shantae and Dominique, and they got to come. So I was really proud, excited. Last year was me and our president that were there to represent Gwinnett. So you know me, I want Gwinnett to always be represented every way till Sunday. So so next year, put that in your calendar. But for this year, we met at Central Presbyterian Church across the street from the state capitol. There was about 237 people across the state that came together to discuss some priorities that we have as a state conference, and with all the units to discuss what's going on in their areas. And the many state reps, at least 6 or 8 state reps came and discussed with us. So here's the skinny. Y'all should know a little bit what's going on, but we're in a minority, okay? And when it comes to to those that advocate for Black and brown people, okay? And with that minority, the advocacy is difficult for the state reps. So what we can do is push and resistance. This is where organizations like the NAACP can be very vocal about what's going on. Now, if you know anything about what's going on, it's nothing new. It's always been there, but it's just now out in the open. So basically, as Black and brown people, we're seeking simply to be able to just live a normal life and not have to worry about what we work hard for to be undermined. Our kids to be able to go to school, get a good education, to be able to live in a nice neighborhood, without have to worry, to be able to get the service we need, medical service, and so forth. And if we work hard, to be able to benefit from all that hard work. So with that said, as we fight for these rights, if we're finding that the laws that are being made, and there's a list of laws that are being made because they were on the docket last year. They did try to push some things, but the NAACP, in combination with other groups, we went and fought them, and they pushed back. And a lot of it was related to elections. We had with the AP, the advanced placement courses, and several other things. But we fought and pushed back. And with the advanced placement, one person, the superintendent of the state of Georgia, decided that they're not going to fund it. But our president for Gwinnett County, the state president, and several others, we pushed back, and that was rescinded. But now there's a list of things that are being proposed to go forward with some of the things they couldn't push because we pushed back and through the legal system. So keep your eyes open for a lot of these initiatives that's going to take us backwards instead of forward in terms of particularly care for our kids. Where, if you've been paying attention to the news, I believe the SBA, Small Business Administration, and Education Department are targeted to be dismantled. So a lot of things are happening very quickly. So this is where we do what we do best for the last 116 years. And that's what Founders Day was about yesterday. Okay, is our response to what would push us backwards. So that's basically my report. That we need to be vigilant, we need to be hard at work, and we need to basically be strategic about what we do. That yes, protest is good, but we need to be ready to take action that would empower us to do the things that would take us forward.
Any questions? First Vice President?
How do you get the summary of the information that was addressed on Founder's Day?
I'll speak to our executive director for the state and see if there's something like that. I know there's usually some kind of report that's done, but I'll see about what she can disseminate to the different units.
So, yeah, so I would recommend just follow up. If y'all want to report on what happened at the Founder's Day, email the secretary. And probably I say give it about a week. Yeah, for us to get it from the state, and then the secretary can send it to you.
Those were up there yesterday. I was drenched wet, going back and forth. So quite a few of us showed up. I mean, I was very proud of our folks for that many people to show up, but it was super rainy yesterday. So you probably get some rest. But the next few days you should be out. But if you like Brenda said, we'll make sure that we get to our members. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so our final agenda item on the new business, allow our guests to come up and speak on some things that was actually touched on Louise earlier. So update on the superintendent. So for those of you who are probably already aware, the school board made a decision to remove Superintendent Watts as superintendent of GCPS. Our first African American superintendent was removed. We tried, to reach out to the board members that was in favor of this, which supposed to be the ones that represent our community. Unfortunately, a lot of our private conversations that we've had with the different board members, I would say they all the way back to at least August, fell on deaf ears. We still didn't get an explanation on why this was done. We showed up, different organizations, Divine Nine organizations, showed up on the first emergency meeting on Monday to try to get some answers on what was going on with the superintendent, what was the reason for its removal. During that particular meeting, made a decision not to terminate his contract, and they pretty much walked out without greeting us. So they rubbed a lot of the different organizations that was there, and it wasn't just Divine. Now I want to leave anybody else out. If I'm not mistaken, NCNW was there, Top Ladies of Distinction was there, and them just the ones I can think of off the top of my head that was there. I'm sure there was a few others, and so you put it on my head, not my heart, that I may not have named you. But we all was there. It's probably about 50 or 60 of us in the room, and they left out without giving us explanation on why they was even considering it or even speaking to us, just thanking us for coming. Second emergency meeting was called on Friday. In between that meeting, I personally tried to, before that meeting was called, was trying to talk to one of the board members at least to say, hey, whatever issue y'all are having with the superintendent, let's work this thing out. Let's get it hashed out. But again, like I always say, when you're doing anything in life, especially the type of work we're doing, what's your objective? So apparently their objective was to remove him regardless. There was never going to be a situation of trying to make any amends or work anything out. And so that's what was done. We was at the Friday meeting, myself and second vice president, education chair, John Cox, who was also instrumental in being an advocate for the AP course. We challenged State Superintendent Woods about the removal of the course. How he had no jurisdiction to do that. But we both tag team contacting the different board members, trying to get them to give us an explanation why. Jacques Lebrun, who had a private meeting with one of their spokespersons to get some clarity. I think it was myself, first vice president, member at large Ray Harvin, Was that
Second VP, was that?
Yeah, John Cox, second vice president and education chair, John Cox. So those were the member fire branch. There was a few other community partners that were there as well. Still got no clarity. We did learn some things, or at least heard some things that I won't repeat publicly. But it was personal. Basically, I put it directly. It definitely wasn't anything from a performance issue. So don't know what's going to happen with the school board now. As I stated to them privately, I think it does open them up to be challenged by a lot of the, to be nice, MAGA version of the community that supports that, to say that the school board is dysfunctional, since most of the board members that supported this, I guess, to use a term that I don't like to use, because I think it gets overused when it's going in either direction. But the more, I guess, progressive or liberal, or I would just be quite frank, the leadership that's supposed to represent our community, the black elected official that's on the school board, was the one that made the decision to remove Superintendent Lyons. Our Caucasian brothers, they was actually against the decision because, again, I think they was looking at it from a one, again, they didn't have a valid reason to do it, so I'm thinking they're looking at it for self-preservation. They don't want to lose their job as board members, which that could possibly happen with the government takeover. And then two, from a business perspective as well, because we all know that property value is tied to how well the school system is doing. And so if there's a issue of Gwinnett County's accreditation is at the challenge, and that could hurt property value within the county. And we know Republican or more right wing or conservative wing voters and members look at the money. Not saying we don't, but they look at it as well. So again, it's disappointing. I'll say, it's definitely lessons to be learned when things like this happen. I think one of those lessons is, as a group, we can't be so trapped by race, but we don't listen to people's political ideology. Everybody that look like us don't represent our actual views, and we shouldn't tie certain political ideologies based on race, based on gender, based on sexuality. A lot of times those things can blind us into electing people that may not represent the community at large. I myself, when I went to the Friday meeting, I was disappointed, not the wrong word, probably pissed off is the right word, that one of the board members, Dr. Therese, made a comment about, how, we showed up to the emergency board meeting on Monday, but we didn't show up to the meeting. We don't show up to regular board meetings. And I felt like that was out of bounds because, again, these meetings are recorded. So if you can't be there in person, just like our meetings, you can watch them at home. So I felt like that was a shot at a lot of the different organizations that showed up to that emergency meeting on Monday to say, like, hey, y'all showing up here, y'all need to come regularly, as if you can't have a voice unless you're there at every single meeting. So I didn't like that personally. I just be quite frank. I felt like that was a low blow, and that didn't need to be said, especially when you apologize for not shaking our hand and meeting and greeting us on Monday, and you take that sort of low blow. So again, I don't know what's going to happen with the school board. Personally, I do think at some point, probably during the summer, there's going to be an investigation done because a lot of people are mad. And the people that want to take back control of the board and want to go back to the good old days, prior to us having our first Black elected officials on the board and first Black superintendent, they want to take it back. Just like we're seeing with a lot of stuff that's happening at the federal level, they want to take over at the local level. And I think, as I stated, this move to remove a superintendent by all intents and purposes in terms of metrics, graduation rate, Black student achievement gap compared to the white student achievement gap, closing. Traditionally, predominantly Black and Hispanic schools, graduation rates going up, discipline rates starting to level down and come down. All those metrics that we would typically look at and we judge a superintendent by, he was doing well. Are there things to be improved on? Of course. I mean, the guy just got there 3 years. You can't fix systemic racism that was put on by a previous superintendent who was there for 25 years in 3 years. It takes time for these things to work to work themselves out. So with that being said, we're gonna keep doing what we do. We're gonna keep working with the school system. We're still gonna work with the board, whoever the new incoming superintendent that they ultimately appoint. We'll work with them. Again, it raises concerns because again, this is the third superintendent in less than 4 years. How well are you going to get a qualified superintendent to fill that role? That's a concern. I look at it from a sports analogy, and then you're not going to hire, and I'm a Chiefs fan, so you're not going to hire Andy Reid to come in there or Bill Belichick to come in there and take a job that, hey, you just fired a coach that won 12 games last year and want me to come in there with what I got to do to be successful. So again, does open it up to, like in sports, you have a mediocre, and there's no knock on whoever's going to be appointed because I don't know, but you cut yourself off a lot of times from the best candidates because they're going to look at the situation like, well, this person got removed for this. What do I got to do to be successful or to take this job? If I don't understand what the standard is. The standard not to hit these metrics. What is the standard? So again, it's just a lot of questions, a lot of open it up. We're going to monitor the situation closely. If there is a hostile takeover of the board, then we'll do what we always do. We'll mobilize, organize, and try to make sure we get elected officials that actually represent the community at large and not going to be making decisions based off any personal issues. Because at the end of the day, elected officials are there to serve the people. And I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to name any county. Again, we don't want Gwinnett to turn into some of these counties that got predominantly Black electorate that's running the school system, and the school systems are not good. And the reason they're not good is because stuff like this. You have people in place that are doing a good job, but because of personal beefs or, hey, you don't get along, and you've got the power to remove them, you remove them, and then you're stuck with people that's unqualified to take those positions because now you set a standard that's impossible to reach because now it's not based on how well I'm doing from a metric standpoint. It's based on how well I'm getting along with you or whether I'm doing everything you want me to do, which again, now you're talking about overreach of power, where, again, there's supposed to be a separation of power between the superintendent and the board, just like at the federal level between the president and the legislative branch and the legislative branch and the judicial branch. I mean, those got separate powers for a reason because we don't want dictatorship to take place. So again, that's my thoughts on it. Any questions about that before I bring our guests up from anybody? Okay. Surprised I ain't getting no questions. All right, well, that pretty much closes out our meeting agenda. So at this time, I'm going to let Kyle come up, I guess with Galeo. I'll let him come up and talk about know your rights when it comes to immigration. I think Brother Luis brought up, we do have a lot of, but I wouldn't even say just Hispanic, Haitian, Jamaican, just Caribbean and large people from the continent that have migrated here. Some of them escaping harsh conditions, economic conditions in their own country because of United States meddling in their government, so now they have to come here to look for a better life. Again, I'll let Brother Kyle come up, talk about knowing your rights when it comes to immigration. Now, take the floor. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Edward, for inviting us to this meeting. It was really cool to get to sit in throughout the meeting and hear about all the cool work that the Gwinnett NAACP is doing in the community. My name is Kyle Gomez. I'm the Director of Policy and Advocacy with Galeo and the Galeo Impact Fund. Galeo is a C3 organization, 501c3 organization that is dedicated to engaging the Latino community civically, registering folks to vote, turning them out to vote, and also we have leadership programs, developing Latino leaders. Derek is here. He's our Derek Alvarez. He's our Director of Civic Engagement. They do a lot of cool things for knocking on doors, registering folks to vote, whether it's out in the community or naturalization ceremonies. We also have a really great program, the Vamos Pa' Fuera program, which is Let's Go Outside, where we do community cleanups, where it's particularly in parts of our community where Latinos are, as well as connecting our community members to the environment because they told us that that's something that our community cares about deeply. And then we have the Galileo Impact Fund, which is a 501c4 organization. That's where we do endorse candidates, vet candidates, and then we do conduct advocacy and organizing efforts in support of particular candidates, and then also do policy advocacy. And that's an advocacy day was mentioned. We had our Latino Day at the Capitol not too long ago, and that was really successful. And I'm at the Capitol every week during session, meeting with coalition members, meeting with legislators to advocate for the policy priorities that our community has told us that they care about. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of what's going on during session to put it out, as well as our Know Your Rights trainings. So first, to talk about what we're seeing happen in session, there's a bill that has come out of the Senate, SB 21. What that piece of legislation would do is it would open up elected officials, government officials, and staff to lawsuits if they don't cooperate with the Department of Homeland Security, with ICE. And really what that means is that if your local electeds, your local leaders don't cooperate with ICE detainers, that would mean that they could then be sued. It would also mean that they could lose, that your local government could lose important funding. And we have a number of concerns about that. About that piece of legislation for a number of reasons. Not least of all, that the federal courts have ruled in the past that that an ICE detainer request is just that, a request. It's not mandatory. What this state law would seek to do is overrule federal law and make these ICE detainer requests mandatory. What it would also do, what the courts have also ruled, is that arresting someone based off of an ICE detainer request is illegal. It's a violation of our constitutional rights. And my feeling is that if one segment of our society's constitutional rights are targeted, that opens the door to a broader portion of our segment's constitutional rights being violated. So just because one segment of the community appears to be the target now doesn't mean that it won't be the broader, wider set or segments of our community. We've also seen that this type of legislation, Arizona passed similar legislation over like a decade and a half ago. In the first year that that piece of legislation was in effect, the state lost close to $200 million in revenue for a variety of reasons, and that's just in the first year alone. What we've also seen is that when the state of Florida passed a whole slew of anti-immigrant legislation, like what we're seeing under the Gold Dome this session, that it had a very real impact on the state's economy, because the fact of the matter is that our Latino community is an important part of the base of a whole host of industries in the state of Georgia, whether you're talking about agriculture, healthcare, technology. Our community is helping drive our state's economy. Everybody likes to talk about how Georgia, especially at the Gold Dome, how the state of Georgia is the #1 state to do business in. Well, good luck doing business if you don't have any workers. So that's another concern that we have about SB 21. And we've also seen where states have passed similar legislations, like Texas, that there's a direct relation to trust in law enforcement. If with these types of pieces of legislation, what happens is you might have an immigrant family, mixed status family, undocumented community members who are being victimized, who are being abused. And if their first thought is, when thinking about, oh, I'm going to call law enforcement to get the help that I need, get the help that my family needs. And if their first thought is, well, what if my immigration status is going to be a factor here, and I'm going to end up being deported, even though I'm the one who's getting abused. So what happens, if that's the first thought, you're a lot less likely to call law enforcement. And as a result, it makes the folks who are supposed to be serving and protecting our communities unable to do so. And so that's a number of the reasons why we're concerned about SB 21. It passed out of the Senate committee last week. It passed off the Senate floor earlier today. And so it will make its way over to the House. It'll be heard in the House committee. If it's passed out of House committee, this House committee, it'll make it to the House floor where it'll be voted on. And if it passes out of there, it'll go to the governor's desk where he will likely sign it into law. And so what we're encouraging people to do is not only contact your legislators, but it's going to have a direct impact, as we discussed, on local governments and their ability to provide services and to protect communities. So I'm encouraging folks to contact your local elected officials, your sheriff, your county commissioners, your city council members, because they're the legislative delegation needs to hear from those folks as well. And if you put enough pressure on them to not only reach out to members of the local state delegation, but also to testify in committee against this piece of legislation, those are the voices that our legislators need to hear from, and that's where they need to feel the heat. And so that's why I wanted to talk a little bit about SB 21. It'll have a real damaging effect on our community. As far as the Know Your Rights trainings, we've already conducted a number of Know Your Rights trainings. As Galileo, last Sunday, we were at a church where we attended 2 services. There were nearly 1,000 people at each service, and we had a lot of questions about. There's a lot of fear in the community right now, and so we try to at all of our Know Your Rights trainings. It's not just Galileo staff that's there. We try to bring immigration attorneys, probate, estate planning attorneys as well, and so we're planning one in Athens. I'm sure we'll do one in Gwinnett soon. We do work in 10 different counties in the state of Georgia, and so we try to be wherever our community is. As far as what information you can have that you can share. Obviously, I'm not an attorney, so I'm not giving legal advice. I'm just kind of sharing guidance that we've received. The big thing is that constitutional rights do not just apply to citizens. Constitutional rights are supposed to apply to anyone who's living in the United States. And so that's what we try to remind our community members, regardless of what your status is, you have rights. You have constitutional rights. And one of those rights, of course, is against unlawful search and seizures, right? And so if an ICE agent comes knocking on somebody's door, they can't just have an ICE warrant. Oftentimes, they only have an ICE detainer warrant. They need a judicial warrant signed by a judge with the individual's name, correct address on there. So we advise the guidance we've been given is, don't open your door to an ICE agent unless they have that signed judicial warrant. And then we also hand out Know Your Rights cards at all of our Know Your Rights trainings. I think Derek brought some with him. But I think they're in his truck out in the parking lot. But I'm sure Derek and Edward know each other, so I'm sure we'll get you some Know Your Rights cards as well that you can share with your families and your community members. And I just want to speak for a moment a little bit more broadly, and say that Latinos are 10% of the state's population. We're 5% of the electorate. And so we're doing everything we can to make our voices heard. But, especially in times like these, you need, just like, it, to make history in the state of Georgia electorally, you need a broad, diverse, multi-ethnic, multiracial coalition to defend against, and also defend against attacks on constitutional rights. We need a broad, multi-ethnic, multiracial coalition that's engaged, active, and ready to go. Because, as I mentioned earlier, just because one segment of society is being targeted now doesn't mean that that's not going to be used to target other segments of our society. And it's not just that Latinos, it's not just that the Latino community and the Black community are neighbors. It's not just that we're in the same neighborhoods. There are a whole bunch of Afro Latinos in our community who identify as both Black and Latino, and so there's with those cross-cutting cleavages, there's that much more likely to be impacted by these kind of attacks on constitutional rights. And so I invite y'all to join us at the Capitol. As I mentioned, we're at the Capitol just about every day during session. Georgia has one of the shortest legislative sessions in the country, with just 40 legislative days. We've already gotten through more than 10 legislative days. I forget now which day we're at, but time is of the essence. And so please join us at the Capitol anytime. I'll leave some cards with Edward so we can all stay in touch, because we need that. We all need to be in solidarity with one another and working together to protect our rights and secure the future of all of our communities and the success of the state of Georgia. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have, whether it's about SB 21, what we're seeing happen in the community, about your rights trainings and things of that nature.
When's the next training?
So I'm not sure. We don't yet have one planned in Gwinnett. As I mentioned, we're planning one in Athens. And what I'll say with that is that we're more willing to partner with just about any organization to put on a Know Your Rights training. But as you can imagine, we have to be careful about how we disseminate information about these trainings, because we don't want to unintentionally make these trainings targets for ICE raids, because unfortunately, these ICE agents really have no shame. So they lie to our community members all the time, and they'll show up where community members typically would feel safe. I've heard, I think Derek was there too. We heard from an attorney who's told us that ICE agents went through a neighborhood and approached one of his clients pretending to be AT&T folks, talking about outages, and then next thing you know, someone will be put into an ICE detention. Yes.
Are they all in person or can they be virtual?
So we've done one virtual training. We're trying to do more in-person trainings just because of accessibility and because we're doing these in the community, in places where our community are, and just also concerns about people recording the trainings or something like that. We just want to prevent people from feeling more exposed than they need to feel. Yeah, go ahead, Derek.
If I could add, we are kind of doing kind of two types of trainings. One is directly with our community that's being impacted. So it's basically all in Spanish, and it follows a series of what to do once that's at your door, what to do if someone is detained, next steps to follow, how to find your loved one. But then there's also the other approach of kind of train the trainer, where we can host, whether it's in person or virtually, something with you all to kind of equip you with the knowledge to spread that within your own communities and your own friend groups, churches. If you ever come across the opportunity of sharing the information with anyone who may need it, we can give you all that information and get you all prepared for that. And then that would be in English, obviously, but unless everyone here is
absolutely, and there are multiple tracks, there are multiple ways to support, and these trainings are an important component of that, but also the advocacy piece at the Capitol and with our local governments. That's an important piece as well. And I think that's where, especially folks in this room, have a lot of opportunity and potential to impact meaningful change. Any other questions, comments? Yes.
I just want to be part of what I'm looking at, maybe had a look at the library.
We
We're trying to figure out a way that, some Iceland community just,
mhm.
I can have a family, maybe we say, hey,
Yeah, so I mean, we're doing them at churches, we're doing it in public spaces, we're doing them in some libraries in some parts of the state. So it just depends on the leadership in the community, and it depends on where we can ensure that our community feels safe and comfortable enough to be present and attend.
So like, I'm sorry, like in regards to library, like in Gwinnett, maybe we do one in Norcross and Lilburn where the drive there is extremely short, or they could walk. Because you have to think about any time that they drive, they're at risk as well. But yeah, sorry, I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, walking or driving there at risk, because coming out of New York, I've seen a lot of the things happening, the lie and the tricks they use to get inside the people's apartment. Giving these things that public affairs, they have access to them because it's not private. They can walk on as they want to. If we can get places that are private where they can't just walk on, will be a better situation. Libraries are open to everybody's public. We need to find places where in buildings that are owned privately that they say you can or you cannot come in my building. So that's what we need to do. Other things like I been through this where they'll lie and knock on the door with 15 people sitting outside the door, threatening everybody. If you don't open the door, we're gonna arrest everybody. And they keep everybody inside the house or the apartment for however long they want to be outside. And then they let outside to see who comes outside and follow them. So it's a lot of trickery that they use. And the reason I know this is because back in New York City, we should do a lot of bail enforcement, body another tricks. I know what they do, how to get around. And unfortunately, those that are timid will fall for it. Those that have family and that are scared are going to go for it because of the threat of we're going to arrest everybody. So I think a lot of education on, again, your rights, and not just your rights, but your street smarts need to be done. Because you might know your right, but if you're panicking and you still have fear, your rights is going to go out the window because of fear. You got keep behavior modification and the man stress management. Once you're stressed, you go any which way you can. That's like your body will run for the one properly. It's like taking a spark out of a car, it'll run for the one properly. Right. Because it's aligned. Mm-hmm. So a lot of education, not just on your rights, but understanding what to do streetwise, and not to be threatened, to take a threat as it is. Mm-hmm. I think that needs to be a big part of it as well.
Absolutely, and that's an important point, and that's why we encourage our community members, even the ones who don't necessarily speak English, to role play their families, to practice, saying what you need to say, to communicate that I know what my rights are. So I reserve my right to remain silent. I reserve my right to not open the door without a judicial warrant, and things of that nature. And there was an interview that a Trump administration official gave on national television, and what he said was that in places like Chicago, they're having a really hard time conducting immigration enforcement. Why? Because the community there is so educated that they know their rights, and it makes it that much more difficult for ICE to conduct their enforcement activities there. So, that's why the Know Your Rights trainings are so key. I think you, and I'll go back to you.
Where maybe we get educated on where there can be a direct contact. Like if someone's knocking at their door, is there what's going like if there's ice at the door, they can call a number and be like, hey, they're at the door, what do we do?
Yeah, so there are hotlines. Some of our coalition partners, man, We also, on our website, we have a whole host of community resources that include, more extensive Know Your Rights literature, but also.
Do allow them to kind of get to those resources.
That's what part of what we're trying to do is help our community, understand how to access this and be able to access this. And so the other piece to the community resources page, not only does it have that Know Your Rights literature, but it also has contact information for consulates, so that anyone who's at risk of deportation, who's a national of another country, they know the contact information for their consulate, because that you always have the right to communicate with your consul. And then we also have a list of trusted attorneys in their contact information on our community resources page, because unfortunately, there are a lot of, especially in the field of immigration, there are a lot of immigration attorneys who don't do their due diligence, who take advantage of our community members, and so that's why it's so important that our community be connected to competent and well-meaning and effective immigration attorneys. So I'll put your hand up.
Basically, this thing was, youth and children would be targeted because they're the most vulnerable, especially in the street. And I know when they knock on the door, they say they have a warrant, and they say, well, you got to move off and read it. Ask them to slide under the door. If they don't slide under the door, then you ask to read it, and you cooperate.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the things that, the trickery is, well, put the chain on the door and then open it with a slide too. Once the door is open to the jar, you already invited the person in.
Yeah.
So never open up that door and act and slide under the door. We'll read it and we give it back. Which is great if you do it that way, because then you can take pictures and you need to send it to for assistance. Like we were saying, the attorney, somebody, they can read it to you and give it back to you because they need assistance right away. And which is good important. Maybe somebody's gonna be able to respond instantly.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great point, and some of the kind of general, like fast and true, like bits of wisdom is, don't open up the door without that judicial warrant. Always take advantage of your right to remain silent, and don't sign anything without the presence of an attorney. And what we're telling our community members who are at risk of being detained or of being deported is the time to get connected with legal representation is now. Get connected with an immigration attorney. If you have children, if you own property, get connected with a probate or estate planning attorney, so you have some legally enforceable documentation stating what you want to have done with your children or with any of the properties you own. Are there any other questions, concerns? Yes.
So just out of curiosity, is ICE just blindly targeting communities? Because if they're undocumented persons, how do they find them? Just blindly targeting people that they film?
So I mean, we're seeing all different different types of targeting happening. They'll come into neighborhoods where they have an ICE detainer for one person and end up detaining more than one person, right? And the truth of the fact of the matter is, I think if you have lived in Gwinnett for a long time, you probably have an idea as to where a lot of Latinos live, or where a lot of undocumented folks or immigrant people live. And so we find that those sites where a lot of our community members are concentrated are targeted, whether it's certain apartment complexes, shopping centers, and now with recent executive action to kind of remove the protections of sensitive locations like schools, hospitals, churches, those sites have the potential to become targets as well.
And then also ICE is there's reports in Atlanta at the Lindbergh murder station. They were just hitting the station and stopping and questioning anyone taking MARTA. And then also another report that came out by the NAACP, maybe if I'm not mistaken, of a gentleman in Tucker who had an ankle monitor who was in the process of getting his asylum. They used the GPS tracking test to find him. So they're using multiple ways.
Yeah, and I want to throw out there too that I think for me, it's obvious that it's not people who are, it's not just people who are participating or have participated in criminal activity that are being targeted. First of all, immigrants, undocumented or documented, are like a third as likely as a U.S. citizen to commit a crime, first of all. Second of all, we saw reporting out in places like Arizona, New Mexico, where not just Latino community members and immigrant community members were being targeted, but actual Native Americans were being targeted and picked up by ICE. In the first Trump administration, there were more than 700 U.S. citizens who were placed into detainers, almost 100 of whom were ultimately unlawfully deported. So it's not, immigration status is clearly not the sole factor that plays a role into a person being detained or being deported. And we feel strongly that racial profiling plays a huge role into how, where immigration enforcement activities take place and who is impacted by those. Absolutely. Any questions? And it doesn't just have to be about know your rights or actually, the ICE raids or even what's going on at the Capitol, SB 21. As I mentioned, Derek helps run some really awesome civic engagement programs, community programs. We recently published our Georgia Latino Voter Report, where we basically dive in to the electoral voting landscape of Latino voters in Georgia to kind of counteract some of the problematic narratives that we saw come out after the most recent election. Okay, well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really good.
All right, thank you again to Cal Galeo and to Deer. As we get ready to wrap up our meeting, I just want to comment. I know our phone's been blowing up with a lot of calls about different things, about the board education situation, about the executive orders that Trump's been doing. Believe it or not, we got a lot of white people calling us about Trump. Surprisingly to me, so, but again, I will say that some of the people, again, this part of Project 2025 was just throw a lot of executive orders up against the wall. That was the game. Most of these executive orders not going to stick because, again, the way the Constitution is written, Article 1, legislative branch, Article 2, the executive branch, Article 3, judicial branch. Again, there's 3 branches of government. One branch is doing stuff without checks and balances from the other. So a lot of those executive orders are going to be shut down once it goes to the courts. As an organization, the NAACP is always going to be outspoken about what's going on. Matter of fact, I talked to a couple of the members who work at the national level. That one recently joined our branch, the other's been a member of our branch for some time. So unfortunately, they don't have the same sort of influence that they've had with the previous administration. But at the same time, we're going to fight. But that starts at the local level. Like I said, that starts with making sure we got elected officials at the local level that's going to be fighting for us, that's going to do the right thing, that's going to have accountability and transparency with how they operate as elected officials, and not kind of be doing things that's not only going to not be in line with what the community at large is organizing and mobilizing around, but just doing things whatever they want to do without considering the ramifications of how that's going to not only affect us as citizens and residents of the county, but also affect their position. Because again, it could expose them. We've seen a number of elected officials, especially of African descent, that has been targeted with all types of stuff. I look at my home state, Mayor Chokwe Lumumba of Jackson, Mississippi. He's being targeted with a bunch of nonsense because he's a mayor that's actually fighting for the people, and he's being, he's been targeted with a lot of false things. So again, we do have to be diligent against these situations. We have to, again, join organizations like the NAACP to come to our committees, get educated on what some of the issues are, so that you can be better educate your friends and family on what's going on. And then we mobilize and organize around some of the issues. Again, we need to be aware of what the executive orders are, but not let it be a distraction. Because again, they're going to throw as much stuff out there to see what gets through and what doesn't get through. A lot of it's not going to get through. But again, we have to, words of I found it in this Black History Month, W.B. Du Bois, we have to build up our own institutions, which means we have to be organized, be mobilized around issues that are affecting us locally, and making sure that we're holding our local elected officials accountable, making sure that we got elected officials that are serving the people locally, because we're going to need them to push back against a lot of this federal legislation. I think Jack brought up, some of the issues with the state, how we do have a number of people that are fighting for us at the state level, but they're in the minority. Well, again, even if you're in the minority, there's still ways for you to fight. And just to make one correction, I was not at the NAACP Families Day yesterday due to a family emergency that I had to attend to, so I wasn't able to make it out to that particular event. But I will still meet with a lot of the state elected officials because they need to know how to fight from a minority position. Just because you may not have the majority in the House or the Senate, that doesn't mean that you don't have any power. You still a voting member on a committee, because any bill that has to go to the floor has to be voted out of committee first before it goes to the House floor, to the Senate floor, depending on where the bill originated from, before it can go to that floor for a vote by everybody. So again, there's still power. We still got enough people in those committees to say, hey, I'm not going to pass this bill out of committee if y'all put this in here. Or again, if the bill is going to pass no matter what, there's ways to put certain language in the bill that may not make it as harmful as it possibly could be if that language wasn't in there. So we just have to understand how to fight. At the federal level, we've always been at a minority. I think the CBC now is the largest Black caucus, but it hasn't always been that way. And people like John Conyers, people like John Lewis, and the other ones are escaping me right now, top of my head. I can picture his face, but can't think of his name. People confuse him with Elijah. Man, can't think of his name. I think it's Cummings, but I'm not 100% sure I'm right about that. But either way, a number of our CBC members who are fighting for it, even the ones that in the current day, was not Jim Clyburn. Not Jim Clyburn. It was, well, him too, but I was actually thinking about one. I think he's passed now. He's made a transition. He's not in Congress anymore. But a lot of those older CBC members was Elijah Cummings. Okay, that's all right. So yeah, a lot of those older members, they've been in there when they got in there. They was in the minority, but again, there's still ways to fight even when you're in the minority. When it comes to politically, there's still ways to hold things up in order to get them bent towards your way. And there's this conversation I need to have privately with a lot of the state elected officials about that. But we're gonna keep fighting. We're not gonna stop. Again, I know these people think, people just gonna lay down and take it. But again, you study United States history, we ain't in chains right now because we ain't lay down and take it. So, a lot of people like to credit Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln just signed a piece of paper. He just signed an executive order saying, but again, piece of paper don't mean nothing unless you're willing to fight your way out of it. And our ancestors fought their way out of their enslavement and captivity. So again, thank you to the ladies for coming and definitely giving some updates on immigration. Again, immigration affects all of us. It's not just the Hispanic community, as he stated. There's a large Afro-Latina community, Afro-Hispanic community within South America. Again, places like Brazil, places like Venezuela has, so these are some of they have larger Black populations than we do here in the United States. Brazil is the second largest country for people of African descent in the world. And that's counting the countries on the continent. I think Nigeria is one, Brazil's two. So again, it's affecting all of us. I can't about tell the difference between me and somebody of Dominican descent, somebody that's Puerto Rican that's dark skinned like me. They don't know the difference. So again, just because you speak English don't mean you can't be targeted and been living here your whole, your whole life. You can't be targeted. And they can say, nah, you from Venezuela, or you from Cuba, so we're gonna arrest you. So, once again, and that being said, we don't want anybody. That's why the NAACP is here. We don't want anybody's rights being taken away because again, that can be weaponized against any group or or any gender or anybody's sexuality. We don't want anybody targeted. So again, we're gonna keep fighting. We're gonna keep organizing. We're gonna keep having conversations about what organizations like Galeo and I and the NAACP and even AAAJ can do to fight back against what's happening with these executive orders. How can we protect our children that are in school, get them back in school, feeling comfortable going to school? Again, we kind of, as an organization locally, we got distracted with all this nonsense with the superintendent. I was hearing the stuff about immigration, but because that kind of took over our, what was happening, that we couldn't even really get to talking about what was happening with these executive orders around immigration. So now that they made the decision they made, we'll move on and definitely try to address and have conversation about what we can do to get these kids back in school, get them in some type of virtual setting that they feel more comfortable being virtual until things kind of settle down. But we're gonna keep fighting. Again, like I said, don't get discouraged. As the words of Dr. John Henry Clark, don't get mad, get smart. We got to get smart. We got to organize. We got to come to these committee meetings that we have virtually and have conversation about, what's the next steps, what can we do? We need to show up to the Board of Education meeting, Board of Commissioner meeting, state legislative sessions at the state level and have conversation. Again, there's a huge election at the end of the year for city council and mayor. We need to get people that represent our views elected on the city council, elected for mayor this fall, to have some cities and some mayors and some city council people that's going to be willing to say, yeah, I can come up in here and do some of this nonsense. So local government over the next 4 years, local and state government are going to be very important. We got a major governor's race in 2026. Which in my opinion is equally as important as the presidential race that took place this year, because as y'all can see, the governor has a lot of power, similar to the president. Governor can sign, his version of executive orders to initiate certain things. They appoint different department heads throughout the state, and they're the final signature on any bills that come down, or they can be a veto to any bills that will be problematic for our community. So again, we have to get engaged. We have to lock in. We have to make sure that we're organized and mobilized at our local and state level, because that's going to be the fire to protect us from some of these things happening at the federal level. So that being said, the floor is open for any additional questions before I close this out. Okay. All right, so we meet March the 13th. It'll be our next general meeting at 7 p.m. We'll be right back in this room. We're going to do a membership orientation sometime in March. I think it was initially scheduled by the committee for March the 15th. Because that is close to our general meeting, I'll talk to them about possibly moving that date to a different date. April will be Glen County 53 years. So we want to see all our members come out to our April membership meeting and kind of have cake in the room and all that stuff. Hopefully we can find some elders that used to serve within our branch that are former presidents, especially any ones that may still be around that was the president during that time, or maybe their children. So I'm gonna do some little homework. Secretary, whatever position they held as officer, we'll try to find or member from way back when he was first started in 1972. So again,
This is when April.
It's gonna be in April. Yeah, it'll be our April dinner meeting. So, which is our meetings every second Thursday at 7 p.m. Our general meeting, public meeting. That being said, that meeting's adjourned. And I have an evening. Please come take some sandwiches on the way out. So we won't throw nothing away. So just grab a paper towel, get some sandwiches, some water. Yes.